I think making video games is a very complicated task, primarily because when you're playing a game, you never think that how much time has gone into making such a game, right?
Yeah.
Game development deals a lot into psychology on how people perceive controls, how they are able to navigate, how your game is able to communicate with the player.
What message you like to give to the parents who are watching this podcast and whose daughter and son are passionate to become a game developer?
See, what I want to say is that game development is very much like software development. It is actually a piece of software that you're developing. And in fact, if you are able to gain expertise in game development, then you probably will be able to earn more than a software developer as well. It is not just playing video games. It is very, very technical. In fact, sometimes I would go further and say that game programming is just as complicated as rocket science. Anything and everything done in excess is bad. Anything and everything can be addictive.
Let's talk about your game, Mumbai Gullies. What were the challenges to translating the essence of Mumbai, like its sound, like its sites or social dynamics in the virtual world?
So I remember when we started making this game, we actually our team took cameras, their mobile phones, and actually went around the city of Mumbai to do a tour of the entire city to see how things work.
How much funding have you raised for Mumbai Gullies so far? What are the steps to get investor interested in investing in your project?
I think that is not the way to look at it. The way to look at it is,
what do you think? Where do you see the Indian gaming industry heading in the future? Do you believe that we will able to secure funding on the par of Black Myth in the near future?
so
Welcome to the Billion Inside Podcast. I'm your host Shree. I'm thrilled to have a very special guest joining us today. His name is Nikhil Malankar. He's a well-known name in the Indian video game industry. Nikhil is a game developer and the founder and a CEO of Gamion Studio, a video game development company situated in Mumbai. He's also an author and YouTuber with over 1 lakh subscribers. He's currently gearing up to release his dream project, Mumbai Gullies, which is an open-world game set in Mumbai, one of the most ambitious games from India. Today, we shall dive into his journey, the state of the gaming world, and tips for aspiring developer. So without further ado, let's welcome Nikhil Malankar to the show. So welcome Nikhil. Welcome to the Billion Inside Podcast. How are you?
hi Shri, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really good. This is a great initiative that you're taking with covering all these interesting stories. Huge shout out to Billion Podcast. So whoever is tuning in, make sure you're following them everywhere that you possibly can. And looking forward to talk to you.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. And first of all, thanks for doing this podcast. It's a bit of a milestone in our podcasting career.
Yeah.
So let's dive in.
Yeah.
So Nikhil, during the pandemic, I do remember I first came across your content. It's a first lockdown. It was in 2020. As a game developer myself, I instantly connected your journey. So your videos were, I would say, very motivational, sometimes funny, and packed with the industry insights. It is not just a typical tutorial channel, packed with so many interesting videos with respect to the, of course, video game industry. And when you started, I do remember there weren't many channels which were doing what you were doing on that point of time. So if you don't mind, I would like to start our podcast from your childhood, from the very beginning.
Sure.
So you were born and raised in Mumbai, right?
Yeah. Born, brought up, spent my entire life in Mumbai and love this city to the core.
So Mumbai Gullies, which your the dream project is kind of a tribute to your home city.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So man, you are a 90s kid. How was Mumbai for you during your formative years?
So I have actually seen Mumbai in its, all its glory and prime. It also continues to this date. I think Mumbai is only the second city next to New York that is also referred to as the city of dreams and the city that never sleeps. Right?
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, in my early childhood, used to watch a lot of Bollywood movies. In fact, my first movie in theater was, I remember, I had gone with my mom in a theater in Borivali. The movie was DDLJ. So Shah Rukh Khan's movie was my first movie in theater. And a lot of my 90s time, I actually remember being fondly watching Shah Rukh Khan movies, playing a lot of video games. I have been a gamer almost all my life. I started my gaming with this game called Doom, which was released back in 1993. So I remember playing that game back in 1997 when my dad had just bought a new computer at our place. And like my entire childhood, I've played all kinds of video games as well as physical games, by the way, because nowadays people are, like kids these days are glued to their mobile phones and computer screens. But being a 90s kid, I think I was at an advantage wherein I was not just exposed to computers, but also physical games where we used to go down and play with friends. Remember, used to play cricket with my friends in my early days. Uh, I wouldn't say that I was good at cricket. I was always terrible at cricket, but I was always that kid who was waiting for his batting turn, and I was that kid who used to get out on the first ball. So a lot of fond memories of my childhood actually, and we used to stay in this place called LIC Colony in Borivali, which is actually you will not find an area like that in Mumbai at any other place. It was this proper jungle, and it was very close to the city as well. And when I say jungle, it was not like a jungle per se. But it had all the amenities, it had all the shops, but there was a lot of lush greenery around. So yeah, I mean that has been my childhood filled with a lot of fond memories of Bollywood, video games, sports, LIC colony, school memories, very good friends that I made, and all of that jazz.
Hmm. Very interesting. Do you remember when you first introduced to the internet?
Internet was, I think, I wouldn't remember exactly the day, but uh, maybe late, like very late 90s or early 2000s. I that memory is a bit hazy. But the moment I saw the internet, I was very fascinated that you could search for almost anything. My first website that I saw ever was Google, of course, right? And I was very fascinated with the fact that you could type in anything and you could get information about anything and everything in the world. I don't think our parents had that luxury
Yeah.
when they grew up. For them, even finding some of the basic information, you had to ask people. You had to refer to books or documents,
Yeah.
or even like in today's day and age, you are sitting in Odisha and I'm sitting in Mumbai, and we can seamlessly talk with each other, right? That's all
Yeah.
the magic of internet. So while I don't remember when I used internet first, but I think where the time I used it, I wouldn't imagine my life any other way without internet. Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. You know, playing video games and making video games is a very different thing. So, how you develop the passion for creating video games?
Yeah, so I think making video games is a very complicated task, primarily because when you're playing a game, you never think that how much time has gone into making such a game, right?
Yeah,
So, for example, there's this game called LA Noir. It was developed by Team Bondi and it was published by Rockstar Games. That game took about 7 years of development time. Then GTA 5 took about 5+ years of development time, and other games as well, right? So it
yeah,
takes a long time to develop any game, and that's just because it is a very creative field.
yeah,
Because like if you want to develop an app or a software, you can put like okay, I only need so many functionalities. But when it comes to a game, games are an entertainment medium and they are subjective. So something that is fun for you might not be fun for me,
yeah,
or vice versa. Something that's fun
yeah,
for me might not be fun for you. So it is that entire science of figuring out what is fun, and nobody has defined what fun is,
yeah,
right? How will I come to know that whether you are having fun or not? That is
yeah,
only
yeah,
by actually making you play my game, or see it as an experience, and only then will I come to know as a developer that what changes I need to make. That's one. Second part is you have to have a unique art style for your game. You need to code your mechanics. You need to test stuff. If your game has storyline, then you have to chart out, write that story, then the dialogues. Then once you've written the dialogues, you have to get voiceover done. Once is done, maybe if your character has walk cycle or cutscenes, then you have to do animations for that, right? So it's a
yeah,
very complex process. So it is completely different from just playing games as an entertainment. For playing games, you just have to sit there and enjoy the experience. But making games is not as fun as it might seem to be. I mean, definitely, we all game developers, we have passion for games.
yeah,
I'm not saying that it is not fun. It is. It definitely has its ups and downs.
yeah,
But there are long periods of time which are equally frustrating when you see that why is this thing not happening, or why I'm not able to implement a particular thing, or
yeah,
I made something that I feel is fun, but when the player is playing it, the player is not able to figure out how to even start or reach that end goal, right?
Yep,
So
yep,
it's
yep.
it's a complicated science, I would say. Game development deals a lot into psychology on how people perceive controls, how they are able to navigate, how your game is able to communicate with the player. So, for example, when I'm making a game and I'm testing, and let's say if you are in front of me, all right, and in case you are not able to get an option right, then I can step in and I can tell you that hey, you're doing this wrong. But imagine your game launched in the public and 100 people are trying to play the game, right? Now you will not naturally not go to each and every one person and say
Yep,
that hey, you should play this game this way, right? So
yep,
that is the job of your game. So designing that experience, that is the most toughest aspect of what I would say.
yep, yep, yep. Very true. Talking about the playing of the video games, I mean there is a misconception that people believe that those who make a career in a video game industry, they must have heavily involved in gaming in the first place. They must have playing video games day and night. What's your thought about this?
For gamers in terms of addiction.
Yeah, I mean, people believe that those who are the game developer, they must have been
Oh.
a rough gamer in past.
So see, that is the misconception that a lot of people
Yeah,
have, and that is the reason why this industry is also having a little bit of a stigma around it.
yeah,
Stigma in the sense people think that if you are making a game, it is as equal as playing a game, and that's just because there's a lack of awareness about this entire space.
yeah,
Uh, Additionally, people like not people generally parents don't want to support their kids' dream of becoming a game developer because the idea that they have about making video games is that it is just as equal as playing a game, which is not
yeah,
true, right? And another misconception they have is that if their kid becomes a game developer, their kid might not be able to earn money. There is no money in this industry. That's the common misconception. So I would like to tackle this point by saying that there is a lot of money to be made. There are companies earning lakhs and crores of rupees. In fact, even if you look in India, India has a listed gaming company in the form of Nazara Technologies. Now that company wouldn't be listed if there is no financial sense to the gaming industry, right? So clearly there is money to be made. Now, whether or not your kid will be able to make money or not, that completely depends on their ability, on how they can deliver or how they can work in the industry, right? So
yeah,
it all like I get this question asked a lot, that is there scope in the gaming industry? So my answer is always simple: there is scope in the gaming industry, but is there scope for you in the gaming industry or not? That depends on your
yeah,
talent.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. So speaking about the stigma, which you mentioned that the usual stigma which people associate with the games, I would like to talk about another stigma. I
Yeah,
actually noticed that is not just limited to the gamers, but also game developer too.
yeah,
So personally, to be honest, as a game developer myself, I have done only surface level thing as of now. I haven't touched many of the thing as a game developer, but still I have observed one thing related to game development is, so whenever people meet me and they know that I also doing game development, so they kind of say, oh Shree, so you are a game developer, so you kind of creating the digital drugs.
yeah,
Yeah, of course there is a limited number of people who are kind of thinking this, and I also kind of understand that why they are saying this, because some certain kind of games associate with the addiction, and we have seen the news that people lost their lives and lost all their family savings in one particular game. And there are also some games, also the gambling game also disguised as a regular game. So I kind of understand that why this kind of stigma is still there, and why people are thinking in this way.
yeah. So I think I have a different perspective on this. See, anything and everything done in excess is bad. Anything and everything can be addictive. Like watching movies can be addictive, eating food can be addictive, and of course, if you overeat, then you will become obese, right?
Yeah,
So anything and everything done in excess is addictive. So this does not mean that you will end up banning everything, right? Or you will end up having a negative perception about food, because without food you can't survive.
yeah,
And playing games or watching movies or reading books or socializing out with your friends, these are all the aspects that make us human, right? Otherwise we would just be robots and just waking up, doing work, and going to sleep. No, it doesn't work that way. We as humans, we need some sort of an entertainment outlet every once in a while. uh, And having said so, if you are spending more than your prescribed time or more than a limited number of time playing video games, then that is something that needs to be made aware. And I would urge for us to actually include this in our school curriculums uh, right at the very beginning, because we are never taught about gaming at our childhood. We discover games,
Yeah.
we play games, and sometimes as kids we end up playing games that are not even meant for us. Like certain games have these age ratings, right? They are meant for 18 plus. But I'm pretty sure games like GTA Vice City, even a 13-14-year-old kid has played,
Yeah.
right? Now that is only and only because of lack of awareness, right? If it was taught in the school that you should play a certain game like this, or you are moderately exposed to a certain type of game at
Yeah.
that very age, right? Like let's say for example gaming was encouraged in school, right? In that case what would happen is students or kids will explore a certain kind of games. Eventually after you pass a certain curriculum, after you pass a certain standard, then you are exposed to a different lot of games, and like that there is a natural progression to it. Now because this entire thing is not there, it doesn't exist, that's the reason why kids start exploring various different kinds of games. And because there is no awareness around addiction as well, it is not talked about, right? That is the reason why kids start playing more than they should, and
Yeah.
that's where they get addicted. But
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
can easily be solved by just having that one hour of a session in schools,
Yeah.
saying that hey, these are the kind of games you should play, these kind of games at this age, you should
Yeah.
play these in this much this for this much amount of time. Learning time allocation is very important, like. And
Yeah.
this should also be taught to parents. Why just teach the kids? I mean, parents are the ones who are going to nurture the kid, right?
Yeah.
So parents should also be made aware that these are the kind of games that are going on, that are trending right now in the market, and these are the games that your kid should not play,
Yeah.
right? So that is when we will actually see some sort of a difference happening on the ground level. Because if we turn a blind eye to these games, just saying that children are getting addicted, then that is a problem of society itself.
Yeah.
We ourselves are turning a blind eye. We are saying that we will not talk about this, but if the student is doing, if the kid is doing this, then we will kind of scold the kid, or use any sort of negative outcomes to that. So
Yeah.
I don't think that is helpful at all. I think addiction or video game careers need to happen. And that's not to say that playing video games is a bad thing after all, right? Because a lot of bigger influencers these days, including the likes of Carrie Minati,
Yeah.
Mortal, Scout, Tanmay Bhatt, they play video games and they've made lakhs and crores out of just playing video games.
Yeah.
So even if we are able to make our kids aware that gaming is a viable career option,
Yeah.
right? Then that will change the entire narrative. And this will also benefit the country, because see, if these people are playing these games, which means that certain amount of money is rolling in the economy,
Yeah.
and that can also convert into tax revenue for the government, right?
Yeah.
So it's a win-win for all. Just educate kids and parents on the world
Yeah.
of gaming industry, and this will like unlock a huge potential. Because from a media standpoint, gaming as an entertainment medium is the largest shareholder amongst all the other media houses. Like,
Yeah.
if you talk in terms of revenue, games have the highest number of revenue compared to music or movies, or any other
Yeah.
entertainment medium all put together.
Yeah. Absolutely. That is very interesting perspective, Nikhil. I also completely agree with your point that we need to navigate our youngster in a way so that they can understand that which age they should play which type of games. Currently, there is no navigation, no regulation at all in this. So that's why they kind of in Hindi में हम बोलते हैं कि भटक जाते हैं. कुछ भी वो, I mean, whichever the game they see, they started playing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whenever we release a particular game, then there will be the age restriction, the PG ratings we have given, right?
Yeah.
But that is not at all following in India. I haven't seen people talking about that here in India.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
Yeah. So Nikhil, I'm just want to know your opinion here is gaming industry is one of the very few industry where you will very unlikely to find people who are not passionate about what they are doing. Am I right? So, and
Yeah, absolutely.
what do you think in 2025, if someone start their journey as a game developer, of course they must have to be passionate enough to be a game developer. So in this era of AI, what do you think? What would be the prerequisites to be a game developer?
See, I think in the era of AI, things are going to become much more better, and people are going to find their passion much faster than what they used to earlier, right?
Yeah.
Because see, as you mentioned, and I'm a firm believer of this fact that in gaming industry you will not find anyone who is not passionate about video games. That's true. But earlier, what used to happen was a lot of people get into video gaming industry just because they like playing games, right? And when they come to the other side, when they start making games, they realize that, oh my god, this is not at all what I thought it was, right? And that's when they start losing interest in the gaming industry and they leave the industry. That's just the cold hard truth.
Hmm.
Now, because of AI, what's going to happen is a lot of these game developers, they are going to find out whether game development is for them or not, and they will be able to make that decision quicker. So, say for example, if someone is not interested in game development, earlier it used to take them years to figure out that okay, this is not for me.
Yeah.
But now, within a matter of few weeks or months, once they start doing this, that's when they will realize. That's one part of the churn side of things. But
Hmm.
now let's talk about the positive effects of this. Let's understand how this will impact positively. So earlier, these games used to take years and years of development,
Yeah.
and even to this date, the game development cycles are long because these are at the end of the day made by humans. So that development timeline is not drastically going to decrease because a game that requires quality needs time.
Yeah.
Uh, but if you are going on working on it, and if you are consistent, if you're patient, then most definitely, eventually, you will come to that stage. Uh, the only key factor over here is to just keep doing what you're doing,
Yeah.
not give up, not lose faith. Because what happens is when you are working on a particular game, you might not see the output quickly, right? And even once you launch the game, it does not matter if you've launched the game or not, right?
Hmm.
What matters is how are people responding to your game? Is your game good enough? And
Yeah.
if it is, then people will ask for updates. Then how do you account for that updation cycle? How do you make your games better every single day? Like for example, Minecraft. Minecraft was launched like several years ago, but even to this date, there have been constant developments on that game going on. So
Hmm.
it's a long cycle. The only advice is that just keep doing what you're doing and wait for the results to come in and listen to player feedback because these are the people who are playing your game, and that
Hmm.
is something that will make or break your game.
Yep, yep, yep. This is very interesting. So people now can create a prototype very shortly, so they can find out that yes, this is something which I really wanted to do or not. So,
Absolutely.
so Nikhil, when you started your game development journey, have there any resistance from your family that why you are picking this domain?
Most certainly, yes. I mean, every parent has a little bit of a concern about their kid trying to pursue a stream that is different than the traditional norm, right?
Yeah.
So the way that I was able to navigate this is that I had already joined an engineering college. So
Mhm.
that side of the things was my parents thought that I will pursue game development for a few years and then I'll leave it, right?
Mhm.
Then basically what happened is because I had started early on, I was able to learn things at an early age and was able to prove myself to my parents that hey, I can also earn money while making games, right?
Yeah.
So once they had that confidence, then there was no looking back. Then there was all kinds of support that they started showing me. And additionally, when I started my career, we used to make our own small games. And suddenly, what happened is one fine day, one of our game got covered in Times of India newspaper. So that was a major breakthrough for us, which further instilled confidence in my parents that okay, my kid is actually onto something, and we need to support him in whatever way we can. So yeah, I mean, initially there was a little bit of resistance, but once I was able to prove them, then there was a lot of support as
Yep, yep, yep. So which year it was?
well. This was 2014.
Hmm. So what message you like to give to the parents who are watching this podcast and whose daughter and son are passionate to become a game developer?
See, what I want to say is that game development is very much like software development. It is actually a piece of software that you're developing. So it is very much technical. And if you look at bulk of the salaries nowadays, if you join as a fresher at TCS or Accenture, you are going to get paid just as equally if you are a game developer, right? So the salary part is pretty much the same. And in fact, if you are able to gain expertise in game development, then you probably will be able to earn more than a software developer as well. That is possible. I'm not saying it is possible for everyone, but it is possible. you can get a package of 1.5, 2 lakh a month by being in game development, right? So that's one. Second part is that it is not just playing video games. It is very very technical. In fact, sometimes I would go further and say that game programming is just as complicated as rocket science. You have to apply a lot of mind. You
Yeah.
have to be patient. You have to look at the output. You have to coordinate and communicate within the team members, right? So it is not just a simple coding job, right? It is actually understanding a lot of aspects are related to user behavior, how to communicate within the team, what sort of assets you're working with, and all of those aspects. So, to the parents, just I would say that spend some time in learning about this industry. Read a few articles, research on companies that are already in the space, see what they are doing and why they were successful in doing so, and
Yeah.
and then if you feel that it is not for your kid, that is when you should have that dialogue. But at least don't be a complete blank slate and dismiss
Yeah.
this career altogether, because that's just unfair on the kind of work that is happening in the gaming industry. And in recent times, even our honorable prime minister has gone forward and shown a lot of support for this sector, right? So if our prime minister himself is promoting this sector,
Yeah.
then that definitely means that there is going to be some level of economic growth as well in this sector. So
Yeah.
yeah, that is my 2 cents for the parents.
Yep. 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 You've been to this industry for like more than a decade.
Yeah,
So you have seen the good days and bad days in this industry.
yeah.
So for the comparison, if you had to compare the gaming industry with the IT industry, so can we say that the gaming industry is now where the IT industry was in 90s?
I think it has come much further along. Uh, because see, back in 90s when these IT infrastructures were just setting up, people were figuring out what to do. But now gaming industry in India is at a stage where each and everyone has basically the same access to tools that are available in the Western market. So if I were to talk about softwares,
Yeah.
uh, someone sitting over here has access to Unity, and someone sitting in US has access to Unity. That is same is true for Unreal Engine as well. So tools are there. There are good studios, voiceover studios around here. Motion capture equipment is available for you to buy. Definitely, it is a bit expensive, but
Yeah.
accessibility is there. Anyone and everyone who has a little bit of connects here and there and some money can get access to these things, right? So it
Yeah.
is just a matter of patience and investing in the right direction.
Hmm.
So, I mean, there is no reason nowadays to, or there's no excuse to not get into game dev. Everything that you need, you already have.
Hmm. That's very interesting. Uh, So, coming to the prerequisite part, game development in 2025. So, once you have that great idea to make what you want to make, and then the first step would like is like to find like-minded people to join your journey, and then you need to start some prototyping and some planning and etc. Then eventually there is a time will come that that you need investment, you need funding. So, my question is, what are the steps to get investor interested in investing in your project?
So, like the answer for this is not like whether you should, like how can you, so we have to look at it from a different place.
Okay,
The
okay,
question that you asked was how can you get an investor interested in your project?
yeah,
I think that is not the way to look at it. The way to look at it is first figuring out, do you even need that investment? Like a lot of game projects nowadays
mm,
don't need crores and crores of rupees. They need maybe like a few lakhs, right? And maybe that few lakhs you can earn by yourself as well if you're working somewhere else, or if you have that savings, whatever, right? So you can have that money by yourself. That's one. Second part is uh, like how much money do you need, right? And when you are working on your game, will you be needing that capital at once,
mm,
or are you willing to wait for it, right? Then you have to realize one thing: what is the game that you're working on, and how much it is going to sell in the market. So let's say, for example, if you are creating a game that is worth $10, okay, you're going to publish it for $10, and you anticipate that over 1 lakh people will buy the game, which means that the game will earn you about 10 lakh dollars, which is about $1 million, $1 million,
yeah,
right? So it is going to earn you $1 million, but you figured out that the budget of this game is $100,000, okay, which means $1 lakh, which means that the amount of money that you will require to make that game after the game is launched, you will earn 10 times of the money that you invested in making that game, right?
Mm.
Now, the second question, do you have that $100,000? Do you have $1 lakh with you?
Mm.
If you have, then you don't need an investor. You don't need to look for that money elsewhere. But if you don't have, then there are two things that you need to ask. One, can I earn this money myself, or do I absolutely have to rely on external capital? If you can earn that money by yourself, that's the greatest thing ever. But if you're going to approach an investor, you have to then completely shift your mind. You don't have to think that how will I attract an investor? You have to think in a way that what will I be able to provide to the investor that will be justifiable for their investment, right? Because today an investor has an option to park their money in fixed deposits or stock market
Yeah.
or any other alternate investments or crypto for that matter. So why will an investor put money in your project? That is only for financial reasons, right? They are going to put in 1 crore rupees, for example, and they expect that after a few years of time, you will give return back 2, 3, 4, or 50 crores, whatever that number will be. So in this case, let's assume that you require 1 crore to make your game, and you think that after the game is developed, the game will earn 5 crore rupees. So you go to an investor, you say that this is the game that I'm working on. This is the amount of money that I need to make this game. Uh, 1 crore rupees is going to last me for maybe 12 months. In 12 months, I will make this game. And on the 13th month, I will launch the game.
Hmm.
After the 13th month is done, maybe in the next 6 months, which is 13 plus 6, 19 months, right? I will be able to earn 5 crores in those 6 months. So then, after I earn those 5 crores, I will give you back 2 crores, and then remaining 3 crores is my profit. So that is just a very basic way of approaching this. It goes much more deeper than this. I'm pretty sure this entire podcast will not suffice for me to explain that journey.
Yep. Of course, of course. But
Yeah.
that is a very, interesting perspective, I would say. I mean, most of the
Yeah.
people, they are kind of stop their project because they don't think that they will raise the capital. But you are absolutely right. First, you have to decide that whether you need the money. And you have to do the maths that if you make a game with a X amount of money, then what amount you expect to is return.
Yeah.
So it is kind of like every other startup, so it's like every other product. When you launch a product, the physical product, then also you do the same, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but still, I've been hearing the news that you guys have raised another round of funding
Yeah.
and congratulations for that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, how much funding have you raised for Mumbai Gullies so far?
In total, we've raised about more than $1.5 million so far. That is on the company level. Yeah, and it's deployed towards building the game, making sure that we have all the right set of people, as well as investing in terms of getting the game voiceover done and all of those aspects.
That's interesting. So, man, since we are talking about the investing, there is also things called grants. And I have heard that some years ago you also got the grant from the Epic MegaGrants. So, can you tell us what is the Epic MegaGrant?
So Epic MegaGrants is this grant that Epic Games gives out to a couple of developers to support their initial journey. There is no conditions attached to it. It is basically money given from them to support the ecosystem. And just like that, there are a couple of other grants as well. So Epic MegaGrants, we got about 25,000 US dollars from Epic Games because they really liked what we were building, and we were able to showcase them some early demos that caught their attention, right? So that is when Epic Games cut out a check for 25,000 US dollars. But it has been a long journey, and see, grants is a good way to validate your project. Uh, but and you definitely need to apply to as many grants as you possibly can. However, you have to understand that grants are only going to give you a limited number of money. You might have to rely on some other sources of income or other sources of investments to make your games. However, if your game is a small game, then probably you can also survive within that grants money.
Yeah.
For us, like if you were to look at $25,000, it is barely even less than 5% of the money that we've raised so far,
Yeah.
right? So we've raised about $1.5 million. $25,000 from Epic Mega Games was definitely a positive thing for us. But I think that was a very small part of the investments that we've actually made while building Mumbai Games.
I'm just exploring the grant. Let me understand a bit about it. So you said that they given $25,000 to Gamion, your company, which currently making the Mumbai Gullies. So is there any? I mean, that you must have to use their game engine like Unreal Engine. Is there any string attached to it, or it's a
No,
completely free money?
completely free money. You just have
Okay.
to convince them that this is your idea. You just have to convince them that you have the right set of team to make this
Okay.
idea, and based on that, they will cut out a check. It doesn't matter if you're using Unreal Engine or not.
Okay.
It is basically an initiative from their end to give a boost to the
Okay. Okay.
overall gaming industry.
Okay. So it is like, can we say that it is like you are getting a scholarship because
Yeah,
of your
absolutely,
performance?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So Nikhil, so since we are talking about game engine, so recently we have seen that what happened to the Unity when they bring to the Unity runtime P, they got the complete backlash from the community.
Yeah.
So after that, they of course they withdrew that the notorious runtime fee.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, what's your thought about the Unity in 2025? Would you consider to choose Unity if you had to start a new project?
I would 100% prefer Unity because I think it's a great tool and they've grown by a lot. I think in today's age and time, they are able to match the quality of Unreal Engine as well with their different render pipelines. So they've got the URP and the HDRP, which is actually giving a tough fight to Unreal Engine. And because Unity had been very democratic from day one, which is of course considering the not considering the runtime fee debacle, that was plain bad. But before that, Unity has been an engine that almost everyone in the industry is using. Almost like uh, I think 80% plus games are made in Unity, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
there are these other engines out there. So from a perspective of an engine, I think it has matured a lot now, especially because of that runtime fee debacle. A
Yeah.
lot of people switched to from Unity, but after they have gone away and did away with that runtime fee, I think people are starting to come back because honestly, there is no other engine out there that is as simple to use as Unity and has a strong community around it. Right? There are just so many people that have worked in Unity that it is just the natural choice.
Yeah.
Now, Unreal Engine is good, but the problem with Unreal Engine is that it is a high-end engine. So, in order to run Unreal Engine, you require a high-end system. That is not the case with Unity. Even a mid-end system can run Unity. So that is the clear advantage with using Unity, and most certainly, I would 100% recommend for anyone starting out a new project to go ahead and pick Unity because it's just so easy to make.
Mm-hmm. I do remember when the Unity fiasco happened, many people, many developers, they switched to Godot. So
Yeah.
what's your opinion about the open source engine Godot?
Personally, I haven't used Godot yet, so I don't have any opinions on the usage part. But I know a couple of my fellow game developers who are very much comfortable in Godot. Now, Godot is not that much of a popular choice, but it is still a good engine.
Yeah.
However, I don't think I would be the right person to ask this question because I haven't used that engine. My limited experience is with Unreal and Unity and Python, Pygame, C++, C Sharp, whatever. So
Hmm.
I haven't used Godot as an engine yet.
Hmm. So Nikhil, since you mentioned that you guys have raised $1.5 million so far, in the comparison of I mean international games, they usually cost around 50 to 100 millions easily, right?
Yeah.
Be it a Black Myth or be it any AAA title you mentioned. So what I'm saying is here is I don't know if this is a right comparison or not, but I do remember when we launched the Mass Mission in 2013. It was just a fraction of cost. They spent like millions of dollars to make a gravity movie in that year. In that amount, we actually made a rocket and send it to the Mars. So similarly, you guys are, I mean, some $1 million. You are able to bring one of the most ambitious projects out of India.
Yeah. So I think this is actually because of the cost arbitrage. Basically, by cost arbitrage, what I mean is that the talent available in India is
Yeah.
available for you at a much cheaper rate as compared to the Western markets. So
Mhm.
if we talk about you mentioned about Black Myth Wukong.
Yeah.
That game had a development budget of last I read was about $40 million.
Yeah.
Sleeping Dogs, which is again an open world game based in Hong Kong, That game had a dev budget of $30 million, 30. So compared to these games, yes, our budget is very minuscule.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think what I want to say is that we also need to figure out these processes, because when we started building Mumbai Gullies, we had absolutely no idea how to build this game, right?
Yeah.
It was a first big project. We knew how to make games, but building something of this scale was completely new process for us. So we had to figure out a lot along the way, and that is also like, because of that also, I would say that some of the costs got inflated. But now, next time we make a game like this, we would probably be able to make it at a much cheaper price point. That's just because now we have the processes figured out.
Yeah.
We know what mistakes to avoid, and we also know what is our go-to-market strategy, right?
Yeah.
So in India, that will always be a advantage for you, that you always have a relatively lower cost of development as compared to the Western markets.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, what do you think? Where do you see the Indian gaming industry heading in the future? Do you believe that we will able to secure funding on the par of Black Myth in the near
Uh,
future?
so even if we don't secure that level of funding, it's fine, because even in a low budget, we or less amount of funding, we are able to churn out games
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
are of high quality, right? In terms of the funding and ecosystem being developed, I think that's already started. That's already happening. Our studio got funded. There are a couple of studios that I know have got funded. Sony has announced their announced and picked the first five
Yeah.
studios in their cohort for their India Hero project, right? So
Yeah.
all of this development is most definitely happening. Now it is only a matter of time when these investments start paying off, because the day that our game launches, the day that all these other couple of games launches, that is the point of beginning of all the wave of new amazing games coming out in the future. Because as India, we have so many stories to tell. I know a couple of games that are based on Indian mythology. So there's this game called Unsung Empires Cholas. That's
Yeah.
that's based in Indian ancient Indian times. They have also taken references of actual real Indian sports, ancient sports.
Yeah.
Then we had the blockbuster example of Raji.
Yeah.
In recent times, there's this horror game called Kamla, which
Yeah.
was doing very well. So I think the overall industry in India is headed in a very strong and positive direction. And it is only a matter of time when we start seeing games like Black Myth Wukong being made in India. And it's not to say that we need a Black Myth Wukong being made in India, but on a similar quality or better quality. That is most definitely going to happen, because if you look at the credits of any big successful game,
Hmm.
a lot of the names in those credit lists
Yeah.
are Indian,
Yeah.
right? So we Indians have contributed in making these bigger titles.
Yeah.
So and you know we prefer, as Indians, we prefer to play safe. So that's why earlier we used to only work on these bigger titles,
Yeah.
but now a lot of these bigger titles are being made in India, and that is what is going to be a complete game changer.
Yep. 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 Absolutely. We have seen a drastic change in India.
Yeah.
How India consume games since the smartphone becomes so powerful, and the once the majority of Indians got access to the high quality internet thanks to Geo. So now every one of two Indians have a smartphone. So this means that the first time in the history that the large chunk of Indian consumer have the gateway, has the platform to experience the games. But
Yeah.
earlier it wasn't the case, right? Because not in India, not everybody had the computer, not everybody had the console. But still, we haven't have enough gamers who are willing to pay to play. Pay to play.
Yeah.
So although we have a ton of Indian studio which is pop out of from India, but still most of them are the free to play games. I know you just mentioned the Kamla, and in past you have been very vocal about this many times. That also in your recent podcast appearance in the Indian Gaming Podcast. By the way, guys, if you like this podcast so far, I would highly recommend you to check out that Vaibhav's podcast with Nikhil, which is packed with so much insight about this industry. So in that podcast, you also mentioned that despite that the majority of Indian Indian gamer, they have streamed the Kamla, names like Kariminati and all the big names. Still, the Kamla hasn't translated the monetary success that it deserved, despite all the exposure. So what do you think? What would be the reason?
Yeah, I think it's just the way that we as Indians perceive entertainment. for us, entertainment is not primary. Entertainment comes as secondary. For us, as India, majority of our focus is because we are still a developing nation, right?
Yeah.
Our majority of focus is to see, if like from a country level, if there's enough food on the table of everyone, if everyone is getting educated or not, if marriages are happening properly or not, right?
Yeah.
So these are our priorities. Entertainment, video games or movies, these are pastime hobbies for us, right? That is the reason why we typically don't end up spending a lot. Like even movies for that matter, a lot of people prefer pirating movies and watching, right? They go to all these third party websites and all, and
Yeah.
that's true for video games as well. So that's one. Second part is that the stigma attached to games, right? For children, they don't have access to parents' credit cards or financial information, because of which there is that barrier to entry. But if you look at the Western audience, the persona of people who play video games are people who are in their late teens or mid 20s, and that is where they the people who play games over there have started earning as well. That is the reason why they are able to spend their own money. They don't have to rely on their parents' money. They are able to spend their own money on playing games.
Yeah.
And even parents over there, like people in the 30s and 40s, they also enjoy playing video games. Now, over there, they are people from developed countries.
Yeah.
In developed countries, they don't have problems like poverty, or they don't
Yeah.
have problems like they don't have anything to worry about that
Yeah.
is going to affect their day-to-day life. On the other hand, when we come to India, there's a diverse set of audience.
Yeah.
There are rich people, there are middle class people, there are poor people.
Yeah.
But if you look at the majority, it is middle class and poor people, right? And for them, the priorities are completely different. Now, I would understand from their perspective why they don't want to spend on games. But eventually, fingers crossed, hope is that we are able to turn into a developed nation. And
Yeah.
once we do that, I think the gaming industry in India will be unrivaled. I mean, nobody will be able to beat India in the kind of content that we make.
Yeah.
Once
Yeah. Yeah.
we, once we reach to a certain stage
Yeah.
where all of these infrastructure related problems don't affect our day to day, that is where we as a population will be truly able to enjoy
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
these experiences.
Yeah, but that is very interesting, which the points you mentioned. But see, that points are applicable for every games, right? I mean, if a developer who wants to create a game, if why he or she will focus on Indian market, right? If there's a problem is there, if the game which way they release will not be consumed by the Indians, so why they will target the India as a market?
They don't have to target Indians. They don't have to. Like, someone sitting in US
Yeah.
is very much interested in learning what Indian culture is. And someone sitting in the US will probably pay for Indian content as well.
Yeah.
You just have to speak their language. Let's say, for example, if you are creating an Indian content, you have to localize it to their liking, right? You have to make it relatable to them. Uh, a lot of, Slumdog Millionaire for that matter. Slumdog Millionaire was such a huge success,
Yeah.
although it is based on an Indian environment, but it highlighted the issues that were undergoing in India, right? And that was picked up very well. I think it was also nominated for Oscars and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
Raji, which is again, based on Indian content.
Yeah.
It's a story of a sister rescuing her brother,
Yeah.
and the game is so beautifully made. It
Yeah.
was probably the first Indian game to be launched on Nintendo Switch platform,
Yeah.
and it was a monetary success as well.
Yeah.
Now, the problem that happened with Kamla is that Kamla focused only on the Indian market. I still feel that the game has a global appeal. The only thing is that it has not been able to reach to that global audience because it was heavily marketed in India. Indian streamers played it. But let's say, for example, tomorrow PewDiePie plays that game.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, that same piece of Indian content will work globally and will do wonders abroad. So I think you don't have to focus on India. India will always be a mobile dominant market.
Yeah.
Right? There will be the games like BGMI or Ludo or
Yeah.
these smaller games that will be popular.
Yeah.
If you are an aspiring PC or a console game developer, you have to create content in India,
Yeah.
but you have to make it for the Western audience. And you can stay true to your culture. I'm not saying that make games on other people's culture. Make games on your culture, but make it in a way such that you are able to appeal to the global audience and you are able to advertise your game in the global market. That is the major success.
That's a very interesting perspective, Nikhil, I must say. So do you agree that if they have launched the Kamla in mobile first, then the fate could have been different to them, right?
Yeah, I mean, for mobile market, most definitely there is a huge scope. And in fact, if
Yeah.
I were to just talk on that aspect, Kamla is releasing on
Yeah,
mobile
yeah, of
very
course.
soon.
Yeah. I was checking in the other day. Yeah, they are gearing
Yeah.
up to release in mobile market. Yeah.
So I think the game is going to do phenomenally well on
Yeah.
mobile market. I think they've already crossed. Last I checked with Shubham, he mentioned that the game had crossed 500,000
Oh
pre-registrations on Google
man.
Play alone. So
Mm.
5 lakh people are already waiting for
Interesting.
that game,
Mm-hmm.
and I can easily see that game crossing a million downloads on within the first week because it's just that viral, and
Mm.
people on mobile market are waiting for that game for a very long time. So the
Yeah,
game
yeah.
got popular on PC and it set up its base. So it has that virality factor in it. It has that ready
Mm-hmm.
audience who is literally waiting for the right platform. And the
Yeah.
platform that majority of Indian people have is the mobile phone.
Yep, yep, yep.
So once the game goes out on mobile platform, that game is going to dominate. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I have no doubt about it.
Nikhil, I want to talk about another aspect of this distribution is
Yeah.
most of the time we see that in Western country, they prefer to, go with a publisher rather than self-publishing the game. So what's your thought on this?
I think it's the best model because the reason, so there are two types of gaming companies. One is your game developers. Second is your game publishers.
Yeah.
All right. And then the business of a game developer is to make games, right? Second part is the game publisher. Publisher basically looks at distribution aspect of it, right? So I'll give you an example. So let's say there is a biscuit manufacturer. Okay. Let's take for example Parle-G.
Yeah.
Now Parle-G as a factory, their job is to make biscuits. And then there are stores. The job of a store is to sell biscuits. So
Yeah.
Parle-G makes biscuits. They then catch a distributor. Parle-G as a company does not go and go to each and every shop and say that take my biscuit. Right? They have a middleman called a distributor.
Yeah.
Distributor has access to all these stores. So distributor will say that, okay, I will take your biscuits and I will sell them to all these stores.
Yeah.
Right. So, but if Parle-G themselves were to do that, then they will have to go ahead, talk to each and every
Yeah, of course.
store
Yeah.
and out there, right? So now consider game developer as that Parle-G, right? And this distributor as the publisher.
Yeah.
Now, publishers already have access to a lot of players with them. Like,
Yeah.
for example, if today Mumbai Gullies was published by Rockstar Games,
Yeah.
assuming, right?
Yeah.
Then the whole perception changes.
Mhm.
Then people will play Mumbai Gullies because it's a Rockstar Games
Yeah.
game. The only challenge when a new developer enters the scene is that they don't have any prior experience, they don't have any prior credibility,
Yeah.
which is where a lot of things go south,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
South or not south per se, but if developer publishes by themselves, it is possible that they might become popular, but they will have to spend a lot on marketing. And the publishers, these publishers, they have all of these marketing money with them.
Yeah.
That they can do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course. So if you know that A Way Out and In Text 2, if they haven't opted EA2 as a publisher, then we may not have seen that of success of It Takes Two. Another thing is here is I want to come back to the Kamla a bit. So do you think that if Kamla have opted a publisher, that could have been changed the fate of their game?
Most definitely yes.
Yeah.
Most definitely yes. But I think, as I said, right, it was Shubham's first game that he launched under his brand. While he has been in the space, he has been a professional game developer for a while.
Yeah.
But what publishers also look at is how can they de-risk their project.
Yeah.
And I think now if he makes another game, a second game, and he now goes to a publisher, then he will have a much higher chance of landing a publisher.
Got it. Yep. So we were talking about the game publisher and Kamla. So Nikhil, let's talk about your game, Mumbai Gullies.
Yeah.
I do remember in 2020 when you launched the Bada Soch campaign on your YouTube channel. Soon after that, you announced that your dream project, Mumbai Gullies. And in just a few months since the announcement, we saw an impressive 39-second teaser trailer for the Mumbai Gullies.
Yeah.
So recently you announced that Mumbai Gully will be coming very soon, probably this year. You also mentioned that you will be releasing it in an episodic format with the first person being free. So would you like to say something about it?
Yeah, I mean, like when we started out building this game, we wanted to first create a big game, right?
Yeah.
And even for that, we had raised some funding, some capital. But when we started making the game, we realized that it is a much more complicated process, and things are not as easy as they, seem to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely a lot of audience who might be watching this right now might think that how big of a challenge is it? It's just to make a game, but
Yeah.
that's not it. Making a game is an extremely complex process.
Yeah.
It's not just one person programming and one person making 3D models and assembling it. No,
Yeah.
it's much more than that. So if I were to just break down the entire process, it is definitely it's code, that then it is art, then
Yeah.
it is planning of your user interface. For our game, we have multiple characters, so there is voiceovers, there are radio songs, there is motion capture for your characters, smooth animations, there are cutscenes, storyboarding, and so many aspects, right?
Yeah.
So once we went into the development process, we had initially thought that it would take us maybe like a few 1.5 years to get the first version out. But as soon as we started making it, that's when we were hit with a lot of challenges, and that is to first figure out the processes, because while we have made games in the past, but those were more mobile games, right?
Yeah.
So this was our first PC endeavor. And that just takes an incredible amount of time, because once you log down on the storyline and then you start making the game, you also have to simultaneously play test it with a lot of people. And we've done a couple of playtests. We've done showcases almost all over the world.
Yeah.
Twice we did it in India, in Hyderabad at IGDC. Then we showcased the game at GDC in San Francisco. We showcased at Gamescom Latam in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So the game has been showcased at a lot of places. And with every showcase, there's a new learning to have, right? And during this entire process, that's the major thing that we realized, that okay, we want to make this game, but we can't ship out a title at one go, because we are constrained by budgets. We are
Yeah.
constrained by our own capability to deliver this, because obviously on day one you don't know everything, because this is our first game of this scale. So that is the learning process that we went through. And additionally, we thought that the episodic content will have a very interesting approach, because we will end the game at a cliffhanger. So think of it like watching a TV series, right? When you watch a TV series, it ends at a cliffhanger. The episode ends at a cliffhanger, and you expect the next episode to be to have revealing that what happened in the previous episode.
Yeah.
So that is our thesis. And one silver lining or a good thing with this is that once we launch the first chapter that is going to be free, we will get data from the audience. We will understand on scale how people are perceiving, because right now if we were to give you some numbers, we have playtested the game with about 5,000 6,000 odd people, right? And this is a relatively much smaller sample size as opposed to how many people will play the game at launch. So
Yeah.
once we launch the first free version, we will come to know what is the response from the audience, and based on that, we will tweak the game. And then
Yeah.
immediately from the second chapter onwards, we will start earning revenue. And that revenue we will reinvest in making the game much more better than the first version, second version, third version, and so on and so forth. So that is the idea, for us to be lean and focus on building smaller parts first, get them right, and then eventually make it into a bigger game. So if you look at any of the bigger titles today, uh, the biggest of biggest titles have a lot of experienced people working on them. For us, that experience is lacking, right? So we need to first build that experience. We need to first build out smaller games to understand the dynamics of how they work, and eventually, slowly, steadily turn it into a bigger game. So that is the thought process behind launching the game in parts.
That's very interesting. So you will launch in as a DLC, right? Or it is a completely separate listings?
It's a completely separate listing.
Okay.
And the similar pattern was actually followed by this game. It's called Fears to Fathom. If you can just check up on Steam, there's this game called Fears to Fathom. They have followed a similar approach on their game launch.
I also remember Hitman also went to similar approach. They released chapter 1, chapter 2, something like that.
Hitman is a completely different game, right? It is
Yeah.
more of a stealth mode game.
Yeah.
It is a closed open world game, is what I would say.
Yeah.
There are multiple approaches that you can take, but it is the map size is still relatively smaller as compared to what we are building right now. Now, having said so, we are not building a huge map as well. We are currently focusing only on the south side of Mumbai. And with every new release, we will add new map to the game. So there will be new areas that will be added to the game with every new chapter.
Mm-hmm. So, speaking about the Mumbai, what were the challenges to translating the essence of Mumbai, like its sound, like its sites or social dynamics in the virtual world?
So I remember when we started making this game, we actually like our team took cameras, their mobile phones, and actually went around the city of Mumbai to do a tour of the entire city to see how things work. So we actually gathered a lot of reference images of photos all around Mumbai. That's one. That's the research that we put into the game. Second is that the audio of our game is completely original. So we we wanted to rely on sound packs to create this experience, but then eventually during the development pipeline, we realized that the sounds that are available on these audio packs do not do justice to the video game at all, to the place of Mumbai, right, to the city of Mumbai at all, because these were generic audio packs, and that's when we decided that we will also have a standalone audio team, because audio is actually something that makes or breaks your game, and I think that has like I'm personally very happy with the audio side of things. Like the game feels authentic because of the audio. Yes, the art is there, the programming is there, but audio adds that yet another level of immersion that you can possibly not have without those original sounds. So what we actually did was we had a sound recording device, small sound recording device, and even the audio team, they went scouting around the city of Mumbai to capture actual real audios of the city. That's second. The third aspect is voiceovers. Now, because we have so many people inside, people in Mumbai, you need a lot of variety in terms of audio as well, right?
Yeah.
We had held voiceover auditions to finalize people who can, contribute to the audio of Mumbai Gullies, and we got some amazing entries. Through these entries, we got people who wanted to give voiceover for regular pedestrians. We got voiceover editions for some of our main characters, and I'm very happy to say that like just a few days back that entire process got finished, so we got all the audio
Yeah.
clips. Then what else? Then we have a unique storyline. The storyline hasn't been revealed as of now, but that is also very interesting storyline, which is the story of our character, main protagonist,
Yeah.
who rises from rags to riches. It's got a lot of crime, Bollywood, or stylized action in it. So that is what a combination of all of these things is what differentiates our game from the rest of the crowd.
Yep, yep. That's very interesting. Actually, personally, I can't wait to experience Mumbai Gully.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Nikhil, we are on the final segment of our podcast. We call it Instant Insights. So where I will ask you some quick question. You have to answer as fast as you can.
Sure.
Yeah. So are you ready?
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely ready.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Beach or mountain?
Beach.
City or countryside?
City.
Blue or green?
Blue.
Early bird or night owl?
Both actually.
Best way to start your day?
Just start. I mean, just go out of your home and then just start working. That's it.
Yeah.
Don't wait for breakfast. Don't wait for anything else. Just get into action mode.
Yep. It reflects that the amount of patience you have for your work. So, introvert or extrovert?
I would consider myself an extrovert now.
Most recent hobby that you picked up?
No hobby. I mean, it's just work right now. No hobby.
Okay. So, since you are a married man, I would like to ask you one question: is what is the one quirky habit of your spouse that always makes you smile?
Just like the way that she supports me, cares about my well-being and all of those aspects. Yeah.
Lovely. Best way to spend a weekend?
Play games, watch a movie, just relax at home. Yeah, and spend time with family.
Travel back in time or forward in time?
Oh, I would love to forward travel because I want to see what happens next.
If you could have any dinner guest, dead or alive, who would it be?
Dinner guest. I think Elon Musk would be good, or even Shah Rukh Khan. Shah Rukh Khan, why not?
Best way to handle success?
Just don't let it get to your head. Realize that one thing, that whatever your situation is today, it is all temporary. The good, bad, and ugly, everything is temporary.
Yeah.
Things can go good, things can be better, things can be worse. So just uh, enjoy while things happen around you are good, and when things go bad, just put your head down and work towards making your situation better.
Best way to handle failure? I know that answer would be same. Yeah.
Patience,
Yeah.
patience.
Yeah. What's the more important, talent or hard work?
Hard work. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
One habit every entrepreneur should have.
Just that, patience. I would say patience, because building anything substantial takes a long time, and you just have to make sure that you don't give up throughout all the failures, throughout all the noise around you.
What's the one skill you wish you would learn earlier in your career?
Uh, I don't think there is any skill that I wish I would have learned early in my career, because I started very early. So whatever I have learned, I have, like, to answer that question, I think I have learned almost. I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, the way that my life is right now, I think all the struggles and challenges, I'm happy in the place where I am.
Favorite book?
How to Win at the Sport of Business by Mark Cuban.
Favorite movie?
Swades.
Most used app on your phone?
Oh, it has to be WhatsApp and Instagram, because those are the apps that I use to communicate.
Favorite YouTuber or content creator?
MythPat is good. I like PewDiePie, and who else? Myself. I can say myself as well. Yeah, why not?
So you are a YouTuber also. So
Yeah.
according to you, what is the most common YouTube mistakes?
The common YouTube mistake is, I think, you have to realize that you shouldn't go after views, or it's basically all about value addition, right? What are you adding value to someone else's life? So let's say, for example, if you're doing podcasts, right, your value addition is you're bringing new stories in front of people. So stay true to that purpose, and don't chase views, because views are a byproduct of how good of a quality your content brings. And it doesn't matter if 10 people see your video, 100 people see your video, or 1 million people see your video, right? If you're able to capture an audience, like, let's say, for example, if you've got 100 views on your video, right, that number might seem small to you, but imagine if 100 people are in front of you,
Yeah.
your entire home, like, they won't even fit in your home, right? So like, understand that each and every view, every view is a person, actual real person, and
Yeah.
they take away something from videos that they watch, the ones that you make. So just go after that experience, and everything else will follow. Like, you've got these big content creators nowadays, people like Ranveer Alabadia,
Yeah.
or bigger content creators, MythPat even, right?
Yeah.
They inherently do things that they love to do, and as a byproduct of that, then they get sponsorship deals, then that ad revenue comes in, and all of that happens. But at the core, you shouldn't chase these vanity metrics. Just
Yeah.
focus on what you're good at, and just keep doing that, and enjoy the process, is what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a excellent way to put it, man. Thanks for sharing. What is the most productive tool you find the most effective, like managing your work or team collaboration?
Definitely for me, it has to be Google Calendar, because nowadays managing time is so difficult.
Yeah.
Whenever I have to do any specific task, I just put it up on my Google Calendar so that it reminds me that I have to do this at this time. I don't know where I would be without Google Calendar. Yeah.
Yeah. What is your favorite game genre?
Action and racing.
Favorite gaming platform?
PC, of course.
Single player or multiplayer?
I love playing single player games, but there are a few multiplayer games that I enjoy as well. So I like playing League of Legends. There was this role-playing game, MMORPG called RuneScape. So I do enjoy playing single player games more, but there are times where I enjoy multiplayer games as well. Come on, I'm a gamer, so I can enjoy
Yeah,
all
yeah.
kinds of games.
Most underrated game you have played?
For There's this one game called Undertale. That's one. And second one I would recommend is Kamla, which is an Indian horror game. Quite underrated. I love it.
Are loot boxes good or bad?
It's a good game mechanic, right? Loot boxes are essentially like they deal with human psychology in a way that it provides a bit of a mystery. So from a game developer's perspective, most definitely yes.
Yeah. DLC or full game release?
I prefer full game releases, and after full games are released, then DLCs.
If it needed, it's not like initially you have to plan that you will be split out this as a DLC so that you will make more money later. So that practice is
And also like to highlight on this part, our current chapter releases, those are not, I would not call them as DLCs per se, because these are standalone games. These are in continuation with each other. So DLCs, when you look at a game from a different perspective, slightly different maybe character. I think GTA 4 did it really well with their DLCs. But yeah, I mean, I prefer playing full length games.
Yep. What makes a game fun?
The core mechanic, that one single activity that you would like to do over and over again. So, like if you pick any game, there's always this one activity that you enjoy doing over and over again. So for example, Subway Surfers has that swipe up, jump up, a duck, left, right, right? And that is essentially the entire game. You don't do anything new in it. Counter-Strike, you just team up with 5-6 people in your team and then you just shoot each other. So like that one single activity that you enjoy doing over and over again, that is what makes a game fun to
me. Yep. Favorite game storyline ever?
Red Dead Redemption 2.
Favorite game soundtrack?
Again, Red Dead Redemption 1 and Red Dead Redemption 2. I like the game soundtrack. There's a song called Compass. I think it's by Jamie something, I guess. But yeah, Compass is my favorite song from Red Dead Redemption 1.
If you had to rate following games in out of 10, how would you rate them? Unity.
Which Assassin's Creed?
No. If you had to rate the following game engines out of 10.
Okay. Oh, Unity, most definitely a very strong 9.
Unreal Engine.
Unreal Engine, I would rate at 7, and that's because it is a high-end engine. Okay, first, it is not supported by a lot of PCs, low-end PCs. Most definitely, it's not, and that's the reason why Unity I'm ranking above Unreal, because in today's age and time, even with Unity, you can match the quality of Unreal Engine. So that's the reason why I'm giving Unreal a 7 and Unity a 9. Construct, I would say if it meets your purpose at a 5, I would rate, because like it doesn't allow you to port your games to a lot of platforms and you are restricted with just building 2D games. At least that's what I recall. Maybe they might have made some advancements, but from what I remember, it was just 2D games and web-based games, which is what it excels at. So if you're building web games, then Construct I would give 10 on 10. But if you just want to get started in the process of building games, then I would give Construct a 5 on 10.
They recently started doing the pseudo 3D games, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
as I said, right? I mean, they might have made some advancements, but I'm not up to date with Construct.
Game Maker Studio?
I haven't used, so I don't have any. Like, I would say I can only give my opinion about Unity, Unreal, and Construct, and to a certain extent, Phaser and Pygame. All the other game engines I've only heard of. Like I haven't used GDevelop, I haven't used Godot as well.
So, earlier we were discussing. If you weren't in a game industry, what would you be doing instead?
I would be a tour guide.
Really?
Either a tour guide or a scientist. Like growing up, I wanted to be a scientist, but eventually, like now, once I have grown up, I have grown a fascination to explore new cities, learn about the stories that are there in those areas, and to narrate those experiences to other people. So probably a tour guide or a scientist.
That's very interesting, man. I actually checking your LinkedIn profile other day, where I found that you have known many other languages apart from Marathi, Hindi, English. Then also Czech Republic and other languages also you.
Yeah. I know a bit of it.
Yeah, that's very interesting. What is the biggest challenge in the gaming industry today?
Like for India, it is to figure out the processes because for especially for these bigger scale games, I think we figured out the processes for mobile games. We as Indian game developers are fairly successful in the mobile gaming space.
Hmm.
For PC and console games, we still have to figure out the entire process of building a game and putting it together. So I think that is the biggest challenge
Yeah,
as
yeah.
of now.
What's harder, coding or designing?
Designing, see, programming is actually very logical and it is just like it happens or it doesn't happen, but design is actually answering the question, why does this happen
Yeah.
and what makes this happen and what makes this fun to play. So design in the sense, so for the audience who might be confused, design is nothing related to art. Design is about how things happen on the screen, right? And I think that is very critical to understand because that is what makes or breaks a game. People will forgive how your game looks, they will forgive the graphics, but they will not forgive how the game feels, how the game makes them feel, right?
Yeah.
So most definitely it has to be design that is more complicated and more important.
Most influential person in your career?
My dad, definitely, because he's the reason I am in the world of gaming right now. He has been very supportive of my entire journey. And like other, if we were to look at celebrity role models, then that has to be Shah Rukh Khan.
Yeah, yeah. Most challenging part of your job?
It's to always be on my toes, to always solve problems, to see if everything is going right or wrong, and when things are not going right, to basically take all the blame, regardless of whoever's fault it is. So I think that is the toughest.
That is the leadership 101. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Most rewarding part of your job?
I'm living the life of my dreams. I mean, I wanted to always make video games, and I'm doing that. So I think every day is a blessing, and every day I wake up, I feel so grateful that I get to do what I love to do.
Best gift you have ever received?
So many. It's can't possibly put a finger on any one specific gift, but so many. Like I've received watches, I've received wallets, I've received clothes and all. I think it will be unfair to pick any one that is the best out of them, because all of them have been given to me with certain intent that is very special for the person who gave those gifts, right? So I'm sorry, I wouldn't be able to pick
Yeah.
any best gift as such.
Yep, yep. Mumbai Gullies must be your most ambitious project till date. Apart
Yeah.
from Mumbai Gully, what is the most memorable or favorite project of yours so far?
Couple of them. So I recently put up this, since we are in the month of January, I had put up this story of mine of us working on our very first game, which was a kite flying game. So that was the fondest memory. This was back in 2011, 12, 13.
Yeah.
We had no idea how to make games, figured out how to make games through online tutorials, through programming and whatnot. That's one. Second game that was very close to my heart during like once it was launched was this game called Box Cricket International. It was a small 2D cricket game that we had developed, 2.5D actually technically, and the highlight of that game was that it was featured on Google Play Store back in 2016. So very old game, right? Right now it's not available anywhere, but back then when it was launched, within a few months during the cricket season, that game got featured by Google Play on the cricket games list. And I think that was the best memory for me, these two games.
Very interesting, man. It was 2016. Oh man.
Yeah, yeah,
2016 also it's a year that where I released my first mobile game in that year.
oh, lovely, fantastic.
And your game guides, my friend, he's also co-developed so many games with me. His name is
Yeah.
Abhijit. He also
Yeah.
a fan of that game of your guides.
Thank you so much.
Other days he was telling me that we were flying the kites, so we were recalling that game.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Please convey my thanks to him.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, Nikhil, one last question.
Sure.
What is the best piece of advice that you ever received?
Best piece of advice was from my ex boss. I mean, so many advices. I mean, that entire. So I think I will flip this question and I will restructure it to answer it in a way that suits my narrative. The best piece of advice that I learned through going through life and making some mistakes is that um, whenever you're starting a career, always have a mentor, always have someone who has done that in the past, and reach out to people. Don't shy away from asking for help. And secondly, when you are wrong, don't be ashamed of admitting that you're wrong, because we are humans, and humans make mistakes, and it's fine to fail. I mean, in India we are taught not to fail. Failure is an embarrassment, but I don't think that is true. Failure is more of a stepping stone towards figuring out how you can get success. So yeah, that's the learning that I've got over the years, going through life's journey of ups and downs.
Yeah. Thank you, man. That's very interesting piece of it. No, insights, I would say. Thank you for sharing that.
Most welcome, Shree.
Yeah. So, man, that's the end. Any final thought?
No, that's about it. Thanks a lot, Shree, for inviting me on this podcast, and I wish you all the best for your, podcast. And this was a great conversation. I had a lot of fun chatting with you. Thanks a lot for accommodating me in 2 sessions, because I was facing some time crunch issues. But yeah, overall this was fun. So for the audience who are watching this or listening to this podcast, make sure you're following Shree everywhere on his social media handles, and he's recorded some really interesting episodes in the past as well. So make sure you go and watch them as well, and follow my social media handles. If our game is going to come out very soon, it's going to be launched on Steam. So check out our game wishlisted on Steam, and that's it. Hope
Yeah.
you enjoyed this podcast.
Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you so much taking the time and join us and share your amazing journey and your insight into the gaming industry, and your passion for creativity has been nothing short of inspiring, I would say.
Thanks so much.
It's been a pleasure to have you on our show. We can't wait to experience Mumbai Gullies, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
And to our listener, I know most of you are familiar with Nikhil and his work, but in case you are not, you can find all the links in the description. And don't forget to visit Mumbai Gullies on stream. Thank you for joining us today. We hope to see you next time on the Billion Insight podcast. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and stay curious. This is Shree, your host, signing out. Peace. So, man,
Peace.
that's the end.